Good Saturday morning to you, and welcome to On the Mark, along with Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. Mark Papa is a financial advisor and so much more. He owns Financial Resources Group, located in Glastonbury. You can find them online at www.frplan.com. That's frplan.com. He's got a phone number, 860-657-8380. Let me repeat that. Write that down as well. 860-657-8380. You can find him on YouTube at Mark Papa. That's Papa with two P's. MARK PAPPA 5207. And he's got a YouTube channel. And by the way, we're beginning a podcast which you'll be able to check out on his website as well. Remember, that's frplan.com. This is our debut. I want to bring in the host of the show, Mark Papa. Mark, great to see you this morning.
Good morning, Gary. How are you today?
I got to tell you, it's I'm not a big fan of cold weather. I know we live in Connecticut and it's the January, but I'm a summer guy. I don't like the cold weather. I don't even like snow.
I couldn't agree with you more. But I think we've also been a little bit spoiled from past winters. So I think we're just sort of getting, going back to a reversion to the mean where it's going to get back to cold again and living in New England. So it's just I'm just adjusting my body to it and just got to keep push forward, right? And look forward to sunnier days.
Do you think? Well, to that point, do you think people pay more attention to personal items, whether it's their personal finances or their will or their security? Do you think they spend more time in the winter months when it's darker early and it's cold and people spend more time inside, or the summer months? And they should be doing this ideally it should always be in their mind year round. But usually sometimes people are caught up in the weather and summer activities during the summer months.
Yeah, I would say winter would probably be the best time to look at this stuff. But, I mean, unfortunately, Gary, what we find is there's never really a good time to do this. And certainly there's never a bad time to do it. I would like, ultimately to see the opportunities in the winter when you're probably not out as active. It's probably the best time to be doing this kind of thing because, you're not going to want to be, digging through your legal documents in the middle of summer when you can be out walking the dog, having fun, going to the beach and spending time with grandkids or whatever the case may be. Being active. So that's why it's a good idea. We're going to be talking about a lot of these topics to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row so you can actually enjoy your life. Not worry about these things.
Before, and we're going to spend a lot of time with each other, the listener, you, me, every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. We're going to delve into a lot over the next, nearly a year. We're going to go there, my friends. We're going to get into the weeds. But for now, for this week, for today, and even next week, I want to kind of offer maybe a preliminary as far as what people can be looking forward to in the future. Why should they be tuning into this show every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock? Before we go into what the show is about and its purpose, I want people to know about you. I mean, I've known you for years. We go back to our high school days in the mid-'80s. I may know, but a lot of people don't know. Tell us about your background.
Well, obviously, I grew up in Newington, Connecticut. I was born in Hartford, moved to Newington when I was 5 years old. My father was in a family business with his brothers in Hartford, and decided to move to Newington, live a little bit better life, better education system, things of that nature. We moved to Newington. My father, wasn't too long after, decided to open up his own business. He opened up a heating oil company. And I saw my father work extremely, extremely hard. Both my parents worked very, very hard, instilled great values in me. And you see when people work that hard and they save their money over all those years, it's just pretty amazing. So the work ethic was instilled in me. They would work on Saturdays, which we're here today on Saturday. Working on a Saturday was normal for me, right? They'd be there and doing the paperwork or doing the books. So they're just wonderful people. I'm very, very blessed.
Where did you go to college?
University of Connecticut.
Okay.
So University of Connecticut, I studied economics, and I've always been fascinated with economics and markets and behavior and all those different things. So I'm kind of I am a finance geek, but the crux of this show is going to be talking about a lot of the things that have nothing to do with the fun part as an advisor. We love finance, we love money, we love talking about investments, but the things we really need to focus on, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be everything but that. And if we don't have these things taken care of, all that hard work, that nest egg that we worked our entire lives to build, could be, thrown into a tailspin if these things aren't taken care of.
And I know your dad. A lot of the listening audience, they listen to this show. They'll listen to other shows that surround it, come on after this show. They know I owned a business. I owned it for a little over 30 years. Your dad's business and the Tone Zone, the business that I own, we were neighbors in Newington Center.
Yeah.
What led you to finance, to go to the University of Connecticut and to study economics and finance?
I think I was inspired by some of my cousins that had gone to New York City. They were in a different kind of market, but I think they inspired me to pursue that path of an economics major. Two of them were economics majors. They did very well for themselves, and I fell in love with the topic. And to this day, I'm still in love with it.
I want to go into your
As boring as
successes.
that may be.
Well, no, you worked in New York too.
Yeah.
I know that.
That was a short
What
stint.
brought you there? What did you do?
Well, I actually, back then, when you started off out of college, I was actually a stockbroker.
On Wall Street.
On Wall Street. We had an office in Park Avenue.
Oh.
I was there for 9/11, but let me talk about the fun parts. The bull market of the 90s and the dot-com bubble really taught me an awful lot. But we were at a smaller firm, but we had access to, I met Michael Bloomberg came to our office. We had actually Donald Trump came to our office to promote one of his companies.
No kidding.
We had access to just heavy hitters, and it was a great experience, great exposure. The one thing I learned down there was not only just the work ethic, but knowing your stuff. And it's a great story. I was just on Facebook with a friend of mine. He's from West Hartford. And every weekend to this day, I still read Barron's. I still read Business Week. I read the Wall Street Journal. I'm reading all the time because you really, really have to know your stuff. And there was a Monday morning meeting that everybody in the firm feared. And the CEO of the company used to walk around in silence, and he would just pick somebody out of the blue and ask them who someone was. And it's a simple question. One of the more memorable examples was Abby Joseph Cohen, who's a member of the Barron's Roundtable. She's been around for many, many decades. She's a partner at Goldman Sachs, the first female partner at Goldman Sachs. And he'd ask, who is that? And if you didn't know that answer, you were toast. You were done. He would literally point you out. He'd make you say, go sit in the lobby. And then he'd continue the meeting. And anybody that didn't know the answers that he would ask, they were really simple, basic answers, he'd kick you out of the office and send you to the lobby.
Really?
That he would make you sit there for a good 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd sit there for 2-3 hours, and then he would call you in his office, and you basically got one shot. He said, I'm sorry to do that to you, but you really need to know your stuff. You can't let this happen again, or you're fired. And pretty much to that day, there's never been a time where, even to this day, I'll be at my gym and I'll be on the treadmill or wherever, I'm reading Barron's. And so you really just need to be educated. You have to educate yourself.
A lot of this audience, some may read Barron's. They could be, money geeks and follow finances and the Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal, all that. But a lot of people, let's face it, Mark, they're not.
Exactly.
What do you want the listener to really take from this show?
Well, what I'd like to, investing isn't easy, but this show is going to be talking about that fun stuff later on down the road. Mm-hmm. And when I get into the investing part, I'll chat about as a portfolio manager, what we look for in flaws in portfolios, maybe paying unnecessary fees, paying taxes on money you're not using, high turnover, high churn, like let's say the manager's just trading like crazy and you're like a buy and hold investor, you're going to be paying taxes out the nose and you don't even know it. And your accountant can't really help you because unless you switch the investments or do something different, you're going to get hit every year with big tax bills. So we're really also big on squeezing down their tax bill and really reviewing those things. But I would say what's going to really separate me from the rest of the pack out here is going to be talking about the non-financial stuff, the boring things, the things that most people don't want to deal with, and that I know many advisors may not want to deal with, but I don't get paid to do.
Why? Why do you think? Is it a taboo topic? Is it not a sexy subject to talk about?
I would say it's not sexy. So some of the examples I'll bring up is, for folks to actually have a survivor's guide. So What is a survivor's guide? People
Yeah,
ask me, what is
I don't know
that?
what that is.
And in simple terms, a survivor's guide, if it's basically a document for you or for a retiree or to put together that shows where all their important papers are. Where do I find my will? Where's my trust? Who are the important contacts I need to make? Who's my financial advisor? Who's my estate planning lawyer? Who's my doctor? It has other areas where you can list who's your health insurance company. So all these
Why
little
do people
things.
need? I mean, why does that need to be documented?
Well, it's just easy. So, for example, if someone is going to be there when someone passes away, is everybody their next of kin gung ho and ready to go and start cleaning up their estate and start doing things?
Normally, they're still grieving, and
they're
not. No one's gung ho after someone passes away.
You nailed it. You nailed it. So, do we want them scrambling around the house, digging up papers and looking for things, or would we like to have everything nice and organized, a nice, neat package in one place?
Ideally, of course, they want it packaged.
Yeah, they want a package. Someone's going to be keeping it simple. And then Survivor's Guide will help you detail. We have all your assets. Where to find my IRAs? Where's my brokerage account? Where's my money? Who do I call? How do I start settling this estate? Getting these things cleaned up. And then we'll look at other things. For example, personal effects. So. A lot of times people don't understand what personal effects are.
No, I don't.
So here's a quick example. Let's say, Gary, I'll give you a great example. There was this one case where a woman was an avid tennis player. She still competed in tournaments. And her dad used to play tennis. That was their thing. Dad basically brought her up from the ranks, taught her how to play tennis, and she became really good.
Okay.
And it turns out that she would go to tennis tournaments, and she had this old tennis racket. And now this tennis racket you wouldn't pay $1 for at a tag sale, okay? But how valuable do you think that tennis racket was to her?
To her,
Yeah.
oh, incredibly valuable.
Incredibly valuable. Can you even put a price on it?
I wouldn't even know where to begin. $1,000.
Right. And that's what type of value do we call that? Starts with an S. Sentimental, right? So
sentimental. Yeah,
has
personal or
sentimental
sentimental value. Yeah.
Right. So she had a sister. Now, what would happen in the case that, let's say her sister said, I want Dad's tennis racket? When people are emotional and think people are in a sad state of affairs, what can actually happen to that relationship between her and the sister if the sister said, I want Dad's tennis racket. I need it.
Oh, that would cause a rift or a tear between the two siblings.
Yeah, exactly. It could cause a tear between the two siblings, and can things, once they're said, ever be unsaid?
Oh, no. That's no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So, but if Dad says, hey, Cindy's getting the tennis racket, while her sister might be a little sad, is she still going to be okay?
Oh, of course.
Right. So what happens is a lot of times we have junk all over our house, right? And we're not sure. I know most people I talk to who are retirees, they say, my kids don't want my junk, right? And it turns out half the time they don't. The other half of it, though, what happens if it's something like, for example, a pile of money? Can you split a pile of money 3 ways equally?
Sure. Yeah.
It's easy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what if it's grandma's favorite pie plate?
Well, there's only one plate.
Right.
You mean a set of plates?
No, just one pie
Well,
plate.
no. It's going to go to one person.
It's going to go to one person.
Yeah.
So that's other things that we include in the Survivor's Guide. So, because this will help keep the family together, or do we want to keep the family together, or do we want to tear them apart?
Well, of course, we want to keep them together, and I think by this type of pre-planning,
Yeah.
it would keep them together.
Exactly. So we want to make sure. So as part of what we do, the very first thing we do, talking about Survivor's Guide. One other thing we do also is there's also funeral, right? So funeral planning.
Oh, right.
So we had another case where this woman was extremely thrifty, and her, she had passed away suddenly, and her kids basically figured, well, let's figure out the cheapest or lowest cost, most effective burial, or no, most effective way to get rid of her body, right? What would that be? So what do most people
Cremation?
do? Cremation.
It's probably the cheapest, right?
Cremation's the cheapest, or maybe next to that is a pine box. And about a couple months later, they're going through all the personal effects and important papers and just getting things cleaned up. And one of the daughters found a note from the mother and says, I don't care what you do with my body when I'm dead, but I do not want to be, guess what do you think it was?
Cremated.
Cremated. And guess what her emotions were when she was in that office that day? How distraught? What kind of emotion would she was bawling her eyes out, and she felt like she had disrespected her mother's wishes. But had her mom actually, had they had one of these survivors guides with that information, guess what wouldn't have happened?
But Mark, this has got to be an uncomfortable conversation to have with your family. I mean, how do you initiate, hey, by the way, I'm bringing the kids over this weekend. Really? You're going to get all your kids in one room? What is it, Thanksgiving? I mean, I know you see your kids, but I mean,
you brought that up.
I mean, but no, but it's serious. How do you broach that? Such an uncomfortable topic. It's an awkward conversation, isn't it?
It is so awkward. So what we do is we help them get that conversation started. At the very least, let their children know that they've put this stuff together in the Survivor's Guide, and if they want to have further discussions, great. Because people will tell us, we had that conversation on Thanksgiving. And do you think
of all days.
Do you really think that your kids want to hear about your death?
No, they're watching the game. They don't want to talk. It's a taboo topic,
It's
Mark.
a taboo topic. So one way to kind of soften that a little bit is to make sure that you have one of these Survivor's Guides filled out correctly.
Wow.
So this way, your wishes are respected, and it's in black and white. And we also have you get the document notarized. And the reason we get it notarized is because that stamp makes it. Is anyone going to dispute it if it's notarized?
No, if it's notarized, it's notarized. That's it.
And so that's something that we want to make sure. So these are just a few things inside the Survivor. I could spend a whole episode on Survivor's Guide. I won't be doing that to anybody, but because these things could be a bit morbid. But why would we want to get one of these things filled out, do you think? Why do you think people should get one of these?
I think it would prevent conflict within the family. For example, I could have a conversation with my dad about, who do you want to have what? How do you want your assets divided, or whatever savings, or how do you want that divided? And then my sister could say, well, geez, Gary, I had that same conversation with Dad. We had breakfast one day, and he told me something different. Well, when did you have the conversation? Well, I had the conversation back 2 years ago. Well, I had the conversation 2 months ago. Well, I don't know. He said that. I wasn't there. Well, I wasn't at your place. But see, so it's one. I mean, here we are, siblings having an argument about one person's word against another. Yeah. Realistically, we could both be right. Maybe he did say to my sister, just like he said that to me. And he forgot because it was 2 years ago what he said. But I think when you have everything down on paper, documented, and as you said, notarized, well, that's indisputable. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. And in fact, you brought something up. If he said something 2 years ago, do things stay the same, or do things change from time to time?
Things change on a daily basis, Mark.
Yeah.
Of course, let alone 2 years.
Exactly. So guess what? The one thing we do each and every year as part of a client's annual review is we go over and ask them, is their Survivor's Guide up to date?
Folks, you are listening to On the Mark with Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. You can contact Mark very easily. He runs, he operates Financial Resources Group out of Glastonbury. You can find them online at frplan.com. F as in Frank, rplan.com. Write this phone number down as well, 860-657-8380. You can find him on YouTube. He's got a podcast on his website. I'm going to repeat all of those points of contact more towards the end of the show. Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, not at all. So just a point of clarification as well, I just wanted to mention I do own my own business within Financial Resources Group, and I am in the process at some point. I still have a wonderful partner who's been great to me. He's almost been a great mentor and a super honest man,
You're
Richard
lucky.
Rake. So I've been very, very fortunate to have him. And I actually had lost faith in this business and the people who are in this business until I met Richard. So
Your partner.
Oh, yeah. And he's a great man. He's done a lot for me, and we've done a lot for each other. We've great working relationship. And eventually, as he gets up there, I'll probably most likely be acquiring his book of business and then buying the firm outright. So I just want to clarify, I don't own the firm itself.
You're a partner.
Yeah.
You're a partner. But did you say you also own another business separate to Financial Resources Group?
I own my business within the business.
Okay.
And then I also have a tax business, which we could talk about another day. But so he's been great to me. So I just want to do a point of clarification. The main thing I want to go back to the Survivor's Guide.
Please.
Why is it, why would it be so important to get something like this done? And actually not just done, but reviewed at least once a year.
Because things change.
Yeah, you brought it up, right? Dad could have said, yeah, you're getting that pie plate, or Grandma, your pie plate yours 2 years ago. And then 2 years go by, and maybe grandma gets a little forgetful, and now all of a sudden she says to the other granddaughter, "Oh, you get the pie plate." So we just don't want that to happen. We just want to keep it simple. So it's simple, easy fixes. These are not major things to get fixed. So,
Yeah, but it sounds essential. It's like a checklist.
yeah, basically, it's I actually brought a copy of the Survivor's Guide here. It's kind of thick, but it's worth taking the time to go over and fill out.
Mark, why you? I mean, there are other financial advisors. Some advertise on these radio stations here with Full Power Radio. Others you see commercials or you see their ads. Others you just drive down the street and it's financial planning, financial advisor. What differentiates you from some of these? Well, some of them are direct competitors. Some you probably wouldn't even qualify as a competitor of yours.
Well,
what's your secret sauce here?
Well, the secret sauce really boils down to the Survivor's Guide is one facet of 21 different sections we talk about.
Wow.
In this very report called Control Your Assets, CYA report. So it's one of 21 things we go over for each and every client. That's usually, and not to scare anyone off, it's a detailed meeting. It's about 2.5 hours if we do it efficiently.
Initially, all consultations or your first meeting?
My first meeting is about a half an hour.
Okay.
It's what we call our goals meeting, and we go through what your goals are. We're not here to tell you what to do, right? That's just the wrong approach. So we need to find out from folks what their goals are, and then based on that, we gather the data, and we scrub through the 21 different things in the Control Your Assets. Because there are things that we can't control in this life.
Obviously.
Most of the, what we like to use is a fancy word, exogenous things, like, we can't control who's president, right? We can't control the economy. We can't control wildfires and everything else. But within this book, we're going to be able to figure out what happens. How do we protect ourselves in the event? For example, we talk about little things like making sure your will is up to date in the checklist. Your power of attorney, that's a big one. The power of attorney is huge, and I don't know how much time do I have left.
You got about 4 minutes.
Okay, so let me just go through go over the power of attorney. It's a durable power of attorney, and I know you've had a lot of lawyers on this station as well, talking about the importance of making sure that power of attorney is up to date. I've been in situations where if a power of attorney was 3 months old, it got rejected from one of the annuity companies.
Why?
Just because it was 3 months old. That was it. That was their rule. And they said a perfectly legal power of attorney got rejected by this company. They said, well, we want to make sure this is the only power of attorney in existence. And it was 3 months old. Barely the ink was dry in this thing. They had to go back and fill out their own paperwork from the annuity company stating that this is the only power of attorney in existence. So one of the things we do with clients is when they come on board, not only do we have a power of attorney review checklist that helps uncover pitfalls in their power of attorney, but the big thing we look for is we help them, we give them we have documents, help them call their bank, their brokerage firm. And I would even challenge anybody who's listening, go to your bank and ask them, I don't need a power of attorney yet, but what would happen if I needed a durable power of attorney for myself or my mother, for that matter? How does that work? And maybe on a quiet day in the bank, and the bank will tell you. I was just in my bank. I deal with Bank of America, and they needed a fresh copy. They needed original copy of the power of attorney. Then it goes up to the legal department. The legal department determines whether it's good or not. They like it.
Can't you assign anybody as your power of attorney?
You can sign that person, but that document has to be consistent with what the bank wants.
Okay.
Now, banks and brokerage firms, why do you think they love to reject perfectly legal powers of attorney?
Because they want you to buy them, right?
They want you to
buy
them.
They want to buy them, yeah.
Yeah, but aside from it, where's your money sitting?
In their bank.
In their bank, and the longer it stays there, the more they
can use it.
The more they can use it. So we have to be very, very careful what I say about that. But the bottom line is I've seen people literally argue with the bank teller at banks with a perfectly legal power of attorney, and they say, well, we've got to go to legal first, and they had to have 2 forms of unexpired ID and blah, blah, blah. So we want to make sure that people always have access to their money. And I'll go into power of attorney more in detail because we probably don't have enough time, but One of the other things I wanted to bring up is
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. For clarification, you are not an attorney.
yeah, and by
I
the
just
way,
want to
yeah,
make sure
I
to
wanted
be clear
bring
on
up.
that.
We are we're not attorneys. We do not practice law.
Okay.
But we do have a guide that every client gets.
Sure.
That now, when we need to fix things, guess where we send our clients?
To the
their
attorneys, yeah.
Yeah, and if we find a couple flaws here or there, do we want to do it one at a time, or would we want to do that, all at once?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that the people you're not giving anybody any legal advice.
God,
is
no,
what you're okay.
Absolutely not. No, that's not something that I do.
Okay.
So we don't give legal advice, but we can review these things with our checklist to make sure that their power of attorney doesn't, there's no guarantee on anything, but at least prepare them for what might be coming. But another one is Social Security. A lot of people collect Social Security. Are you aware that Social Security kills 14,000 people a year accidentally?
What?
Yeah. Did you hear that?
No,
now, they're not
only
actually
1 minute, but I got to hear this.
They're not actually killing people. So what we can probably do is in the next segment, I could start, we can talk about this in my next show next week, is what happens to your power of attorney and Social Security.
But boy, what a teaser. I want to hear how Social Security kills people.
Yeah, they actually accidentally, because is the government perfect or they make mistakes from now and then?
The government makes more mistakes than you would even be aware of, because even if the media will never report that, unless it's some sexy headline.
Yeah, and they're in a big hurry to fix them for you, and there's great customer service, or who's the burden on?
Come on.
Yeah.
Government, let me tell you, as a person who was elected into state government, government works in two modes, okay? Slow and slower, okay?
Exactly.
They're looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for you. They may portray the image that they have. They're looking out for the vulnerable, but that's not always the case. All right, we got to pause right there. Oh, this is a good teaser to tune in to next Saturday morning. Folks, you have been listening to On the Mark with Mark Papa. He is part owner, co-owner, partnered with Financial Resources Group over in Glastonbury. You can check him out online at www.frplan.com. That's frplan.com. More importantly, write this number down, 860-657-8380. Again, it's 860-657-8380. You can check him out on his YouTube channel. It's Mark Papa, MarkPappa 5207. That's a YouTube channel. And this show is podcasted on his website that I gave to you previously. For Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening to On the Mark. Until next Saturday morning, have a good one, everybody. So long.